Hear the whispers from within, balance to restore, ailings to relieve. Feel the nature keeping us, nature healing us, flowers, leaves, and roots within. Hear the mind calming you, soothing you, love and kindness inside out. Let the herbs from middle world heal. Welcome wellness, welcome wellness. It's revealed herbs, middle world herbs.
Hey everyone. All right off the bat, we have a new follower. Welcome Nathan. And Abby says, good day, ladies. Ready for another great show. I think it's going to be a really good show. So hang on tight. We are going to be talking about some amazing topics today. You're watching our Middle World Herbs Natural Wellbeing series. And if you are new around here, every week we talk about new topics. We go live twice a week on Wednesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And in today's episode, we're going to focus on metabolic health and processes in our body which produce energy. So we'll discuss what happens with our metabolism as we age, how we can measure our metabolism, and how we can boost it. And we'll continue discussing an amazing herb, berberine, and its amazing properties. If you missed yesterday's show, go watch the replay. There was so much good information in there. And if you are here today, awesome, because we're going to keep talking about berberine too. We're also going to talk about how it supports blood sugar and cholesterol levels, and we'll discuss the most recent research about this herb and explain where the excitement about it comes from. We're also going to introduce you to our two wonderful berberine supplements and the multi-herb formula called Liver Support. All that to keep you living your life to the fullest. So stay tuned. My name is Deanne. I'll be your host today, and I'm here with our special guest, Dr. Jacquie Leone. She is a naturopathic medical doctor, board-certified holistic nutritionist, and a psychology enthusiast. So Dr. Jacquie, welcome, and thanks for joining us today. Hi. Our theme is from food to energy. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and just talk about what triggered your interest in nutrition and metabolic health and why you love this topic.
Yes, I would love to. Thank you so much. I love being here. And okay, so in terms of metabolism, I think I got my first exposure to really understanding what metabolism was when I was an undergrad, and I had to take stuff to, all the science stuff to get into med school. And I realized that you could, which I mentioned yesterday, do something called biohacking, where you can learn enough about biochemistry and biology that you can actually change how your genes act. So a lot of metabolism is genetic, I learned. And so your internal environment can often upregulate or downregulate those genes, turning certain ones on and off or making them work less efficiently or more efficiently. And my mind was kind of blown, and I was really addicted to that concept. And so, thus began the learning as much about biochemistry as possible. And then fast forward, now I actually teach it. Biochemistry and just metabolism and everything that goes into how we utilize nutrition, essentially how we take food and turn it into energy, and then that energy does cool stuff in the body. So yeah, I've always been fascinated with it. It has a lot to do with a lot of the reason why people come to see me. So I just run into it a lot. There's a theme that I've noticed having to do with metabolism in general, especially because we're in a culture of like weight loss and everyone wants to lose weight and they want to hack their metabolism. So anyhow, I don't want to tangent too long, but essentially I just really love being able to use nutrition and biochemistry to shift people's metabolism and their relationship to food and themselves, which I think is really empowering.
Absolutely. All right. Well, today our topic is metabolic health, and metabolism is often a misused term. So what is the correct understanding of this term?
So I think if you ask 10 people what metabolism is, you might get 10 different answers because there's a little bit of confusion. But essentially, metabolism, guys, is just an umbrella statement that includes two specific things we're constantly doing. We're either building stuff up, like tissue, white blood cells, red blood cells, hair, skin, nails, we're making stuff, or we're breaking stuff down. We're taking food and breaking it into, its most basic parts. It's minerals, it's vitamins, it's amino acids, it's sugars. and utilizing them for building stuff up. So we have to break down food, and then it passes over, and then we build cool stuff and make stuff happen. Enzymes to make us be able to digest food, right? Neurotransmitters to get us to think thoughts. So, these things are always happening in unison. And that whole process, that's actually metabolism. That's the universal term or umbrella term we use for the balance of those things happening and then how efficiently they're happening.
Okay, so when we say sluggish metabolism, what does that typically mean? Does it mean both system-wise, biology?
Yeah. So it's usually a little bit of both. So biologically, it's just this process of breaking down and building up, or metabolism is slow. It's just much slower. And so what happens is when we're not efficient at breaking food down and using it to turn it into energy, then to use it, what ends up happening is there's something going on between this step. And so we don't efficiently break it down to use it, and instead it gets stuck and stored. And then, that ends up adding to obesity, weight gain, all that stuff. And then the symptoms start happening. Fatigue, exhaustion, sometimes headaches, sometimes either sleeping too much or not enough, insatiable appetite, or lack of appetite. In some people, it can change. Your thyroid can be affected. We kind of just see a trickle-down effect from there in terms of symptoms, because everybody's a little different. But that's, I think, what I think of when someone's like, I have a sluggish metabolism. It's just that process is slowed way down.
Okay, so what are some key organs in our body that are participating in the metabolic process? Or what isn't? Really, by the right.
This is probably, and please, I'm going to try to be brief, because this is, I think, one of the most empowering aspects of weight loss for most people is to understand these 5 organs, because there are 4 organs and then a 5th attribute. So I'll go fast, but if you know how they work, you can definitely use them to your advantage, and you can address them in ways to get you the results that you want. So first and foremost, the captain of the team is going to be the liver, because that's where everything gets broken down and built up. That's where a lot of metabolism happens. Remember, because we're breaking stuff down and we're building stuff up, that happens in the liver primarily, like the majority of our metabolism. Sure, we're breaking up nutrients in the stomach with acid and other enzymes in the small intestines, but metabolism itself is really happening in the liver. So he's kind of like, or the liver is the captain of the team. Electrolyte balance, sex hormone buildup, breakdown, filtration of toxic substances. All of these things are happening in the liver. So we really want to support the liver. If you're drinking alcohol a lot, taking a lot of medications, that can interfere with the liver. Eating not great food, especially fast food or greasy food, because a lot of the liver makes bile to break down the fats and then use the cholesterol to make hormones. And it's kind of a whole thing. And so if you're giving it, not great fuel, it's not going to have a great outcome. It's not going to make a great product, right? So when we feed it healthy fats, it's going to make great products and efficiently. So anyhow, moving on. So the liver is the main squeeze. And then down from there, we have the HPA or axis, which is hypothalamus, pituitary, and then adrenal, but the adrenal specifically, because that's a whole kind of discussion going on, but the adrenals specifically. So the adrenals make things like cortisol, stress hormone, adrenaline, epinephrine. And then when we make these stress hormones, that regulates how much sugar we use, right? How much sugar are we basically giving to our liver and our muscle cells to do work? And so if we're constantly stressed out, we're going to crave a lot of sugar. And that's going to change basically how our pancreas works, or insulin production, which is a whole nother thing. So adrenals, stress adds to weight gain all the time. We all know that. It makes us want sweet foods, usually, or not great foods. Then we have the thyroid. People know about the thyroid, right? So that's also part of the process in terms of signaling to the adrenals how much energy to use, how much energy to make, right? So if you have thyroid problems, a lot of people with hypothyroid or slow thyroid will have weight gain, right? Their metabolism is off. They're not utilizing nutrition as efficiently. Two more. We got the pituitary, which I mentioned. So, and it's funny because they're kind of all in the line. We have our pituitary, our thyroid, and then our adrenals on top of our kidneys. And it's kind of a cascade effect, right? So the pituitary is really important because it's kind of like the conductor of the orchestra, telling things what to do and when and how. So a lot of the work is done in the liver, but the conductor to kind of oversee everything is going to be the pituitary because it's, in the brain. So we get signals, we smell food, we see food, we experience stress, we get the feedback. The pituitary tells the body and everything else what to do or not do. Okay. And then last but not least is our body composition. How much of our body is muscle, which uses a ton more energy than a fat cell, which is utilized for storage and can only swell or shrink. But muscle, you can actually atrophy or you can hypertrophy. And the bigger, stronger the muscle fibers, the more energy they utilize. And so that will increase metabolism. But you can be the same weight and height, but let's say somebody is 15% muscle versus 40% muscle, or 30, let's say in the 30% muscle, right? And then they're like 30% fat and they're like 14% fat. This person will have a higher metabolic rate, even though they're the same weight. The value of the weight, what the weight constitutes, fat, muscle, skeleton, all that good stuff, is really going to affect how well we utilize calories and how efficiently and quickly we use calories. So those are the 5 things. So if you have an issue with one of those 5 things or more than those 5 things, I'm not surprised that your metabolism is being affected and you're not alone.
Okay, that's a good explanation on all that. All right, well, before we dive deeper, I want to introduce everyone to the 3 supplements that I have in front of me. These are all from Middle World Herbs, and they have a lot to do with if you do have a sluggish metabolism, they have a lot of things to offer. So the first one here in the front, we have our berberine HCl4 tea. We have our berberine with bitter melon and banana leaf. And then I also have the liver detox formula. So let's start with berberine. We discussed it at length yesterday, but we ran out of time and we still had a lot of questions to answer. So this is just such an amazing herb. For those who missed it, please check out yesterday's replay of the webinar. Super quick, this is how berberine capsules look. Let me open it up and show you guys. It's got this beautiful bright yellow color. See how cool that is? That like super vibrant yellow. And these supplements all have a 97% purity, and that's confirmed by third-party labs. This is not often found in other berberine supplements. That's the one with the banana leaf, also really bright yellow. It's also non-GMO. They're veggie capsules, and it is made here in the USA. You're going to get 60 per bottle, and the HCl4 tea is, let me just double check that we have the right price here. It's $21.40. Nope. That's not right. That's not the bitter melon one. All right, so I think it is, I just always like to double check. It's $19.49. $19.49 for the HCl40, and the berberine with bitter melon is $21.49. Okay, those are the 2. So they're in there, they're in our carousel. And if you add them to your cart and check out, you get an additional 20% off during our live. So that is a huge score to get it. All right, Dr. Jackie, yesterday you mentioned that among many of the benefits, some of the best researched ones are around the heart and cardiovascular health, especially cholesterol management, blood sugar regulation, weight management. So I'd just love to understand a little more about those 3 aspects of health and their connection with metabolism and berberine's properties for supporting health in those areas.
Of course.
All right, so let's focus on cholesterol. Where does that cholesterol come from, and how does it relate to metabolic health?
So cholesterol, more or less, we're going to eat it and our body is going to make it. So those are the 2 places that cholesterol come from. So our body utilizes cholesterol to make different substances. And when we have an excess of the bad cholesterol, it essentially deposits in our cardiovascular system. And that's what causes plaques, heart attacks, atherosclerosis, which is kind of hardening of the arteries because of this plaque. So it primarily comes from those two places, but lifestyle stuff that adds to it, we're finding out, are things like, believe it or not, smoking adds to high cholesterol. So that on top of a diet high in processed fats or saturated fats, LDL type cholesterols, not exercising or being sedentary, because then your cardiovascular system really has a chance to lay down those plaques, right? So when things are stagnant, they tend to grow the plaques versus someone who exercises and is constantly moving and dilating and constricting those vessels. So you definitely want to keep moving, even if it's gentle walking. So all those things, again, the smoking, the poor diet, you can't help your genes, but you can help if you move your body or not, what you're eating, all those things definitely add to high cholesterol.
Okay. Motion is lotion. I want that like over my head on repeat.
It really is. There's so many
It really
things.
is.
Yeah.
So many things. All right. What about berberine superpowers for people who struggle with cardiovascular issues?
Yeah, of course. So because it's going to help lower bad cholesterol, your risk factor for cardiovascular disease is significantly lower. You're not going to have the plaque, so heart attacks off the table. You're not going to have the buildup, so atherosclerosis is off the table, right? Because the cardiovascular benefits are almost like an outcome up because we're lowering the bad cholesterol. Because the bad cholesterol is what leads to, in a lot of cases, not every case, but in a lot of cases, the cardiovascular disease. So, by addressing one, the other kind of is like two birds, one stone, which is fantastic. And berberine is amazing at that. And not only that, I kind of mentioned it yesterday, but it helps with, it's called platelet aggregation. So it's going to, the older you get, the more viscous your blood can get. So it moves slower through arteries and veins. Plaques have a better chance of forming. So people will take like baby aspirin every day to kind of keep the blood thin. And berberine creates a healthy viscosity of the blood to prevent that kind of stuff from happening, and platelet clots from forming and things like that. So it just helps do a lot of stuff inadvertently, and the cardiovascular benefits are kind of like the cherry on the sundae in a lot of ways.
Okay, what about blood sugar regulation? So what are some of the pre-diabetic warning signs, and how do they relate to metabolism?
So pre-diabetes is kind of like your body's warning sign that if we keep eating the way we're eating and living the way we're living, we're going to get diabetes in the next few months to years. It depends on what your numbers are. So if you, in terms of symptoms, just walking around daily life, having, you're just thirsty and you can't explain why, really excess thirst, which is going to add to frequent urination, urinating a lot, increased hunger, you can't eat enough, but you're still so tired, even though you just ate and you should have energy from your food, you're exhausted and feel like you're so hungry. Sometimes blurred vision, sometimes, just getting sick all the time, a lower immune system. Sometimes we get neuropathy or kind of tingling in our fingertips and our toes. All of those are signs of potential prediabetes. So that's just kind of your quality of life or symptoms. But on paper, if you want to know, if those of you at home have your lab values available, or you want to jot down notes the next time you go to your doctor and get your physical, you want to look at two factors. These are big signs of prediabetes, so be on the lookout. Number one is fasting glucose. When you get your labs drawn, you shouldn't have eaten or had anything to drink outside of water for about 10 to 12 hours. So in a fasted state, how much blood glucose do you have? Less than 100, you're good. 100 to 125, prediabetes land. More or less, not always. These are broad strokes here, just to help you screen and talk to your doctor if you need to. The second one is called A1C, and that's a 3 to 4 month measure of the average blood sugar percent over time. Right? So you're going to eat, maybe you have you're on vacation, you're eating a lot of sugar, maybe drinking some alcohol, you come home, you are detoxing, and you kind of you go way below just to kind of find your middle ground again. So instead of looking at just the snapshot, like the fasting, it's going to look at an aggregate or an average over time. So the two combined give us a lot of helpful information. And if your A1C is between 5.7 and 6.4, that's pre-diabetes land. Above 6.4 is going to be diabetes in most cases. So again, those are the two factors to look for objective kind of feedback. if you have your labs, you want to go back, or when you go talk to your doctor, make sure those two things are on your tests. If you have any of the symptoms that I mentioned before, it could be a good thing to consider, safe than sorry. So yeah, those are warning signs of prediabetes for sure. So pay attention to your numbers and pay attention to how you're feeling.
Okay, that's good. If your numbers say within the normal range, is that usually you're not in prediabetes land, or should you still look at that?
Yes, if you're well within normal range, but even like, for instance, a 5.7 A1C, which is the bottom of the range, might be, your doctor might see it and say, oh, you're normal, right? Because you haven't ticked over into the window. And if your fasting glucose is 99 or 100 or 101 or 105, they might say, hey, were you running late? Were you stressed? Because sometimes when we're stressed or in traffic, our blood sugar will spike because of the stress. Because again, adrenal glands, they're like, hey, I'm stressed out. We need more sugar, right? So our blood sugar is always jacked up when we are stressed out. So anyhow, they might look at those and be like, you know what? I'm not really that worried about it. But for me as a naturopath, you're flirting with disease. You're flirting with the line to a point where change, you can catch it now. So that's why I want to be discerning with those numbers, or, just offer a little bit of reflection, because your doctor could say that you're normal for all intents and purposes. But for me as a naturopath, because I'm a little bit more discerning, I would still have the talk with you and educate you on how we're kind of flirting with that line and things we could do to push back into a solid normal state, which would be like a 5.2 and an 80 blood sugar, right? Now we're solidly healthy. We're not kind of flirting with leaning into the disease process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. No, that makes real good sense. All right. So how can berberine help people who do have issues with blood sugar regulation?
It's incredible because berberine acts like insulin. And so when we eat a bunch of sugar, or we eat any food that has sugar, really, a lot of sugar is put in the bloodstream, and our cells are hanging out like, hey, I need it. I want it because I need it to make energy and do my job, right? But how does it get from our blood into the cell? Well, insulin opens that door. Insulin is the hormone responsible for allowing the blood sugar into the cell. So what diabetes is insulin's not showing up for work. Blood sugar spikes. The cells are like, hey, I'm starving. So they tell you, eat more, eat more, eat more. You're eating more and eating more and eating more, but you're not getting that sugar into the cell to be utilized because insulin didn't show up for work that day or that year or that month. So that's essentially what diabetes is. And so when we're taking berberine, the benefit there is it acts like insulin. Okay, so it's going to help get the blood sugar into the cell so you feel more energized. You're using your calories and sugars efficiently, and just helps regulate how our body uses blood sugar, really. So it can help treat diabetes, other health related issues, obesity, high cholesterol, a bunch of good stuff.
Okay, what about weight management? So let's talk about that. What makes it so easy or difficult for some people to gain or lose weight? And I definitely know people where it's like no matter what, they seem like they can never lose weight. What's going on there?
So there are a few things that can happen. Genetically, most slow metabolism or difficulty losing weight, I would say half is going to be relationship with food, diet, lifestyle, and then the other half is really heavily influenced by genetics, right? So it's just like if everybody is 6'5" or taller in your family and you're 6'6", it's like you can't, no matter what you do, you'll never be 5'10". Like your genetics won't allow it. So some people who are, just stockier, or they're, I know people, my family on my mom's side is from Wisconsin, all farm people, right? So all the women, I'm one of the shortest, my sister and I at 5'7" and 5'8". So they're all like 5'10" to 6'2", and they're all like really strong, and, they're raised on a farm for generations on generations. So to a certain extent, that's in my genetics, right? But what the other half is, like I said, is you can dictate, turn on and off genetics with environment, food, movement, all of those things. So some people might have this part, right? They're exercising, they're working out, but if they're not looking at genetics, i.e. how are hormones made, like the hunger hormone, do you make a lot of it? Do you not make enough of the, hey, I'm full hormone? That's ghrelin and leptin, right? Getting those checked. Do you have thyroid issues? Because if your thyroid is hypothyroid, you're not making enough of the hormone, it's not going to function as high. Is that genetic? You can help take the edge off of how severe those symptoms are with diet and lifestyle. So they really do work hand in hand, but I think there's something to be said for really respecting your biology, checking out how your hormones are acting, your stress state. Again, when we're stressed, we want sugar and we have high blood sugar, getting screened for diabetes, all these things that affect, that genes turn on and off, we want to take a look at, we want to measure, we want to be aware of. And then obviously just a healthy diet and lifestyle to support the best our genes can be. Some genes, you know, they'll just max out at their potential at a certain level. And other genes, we really can create such a much more efficient and powerful potential in that gene just by changing our environment for the gene to function in. So just accepting that we're a mix of all the things, I think is really part of, you know, the difficulty around why some people can't lose weight, right? It's just, they want to change things that aren't changeable. So work within what's in your control, accept what you can't, and just, if you're healthy, be happy. You know, that's first and foremost, in my opinion. Because I've seen really sick, healthy weighted people, and I've seen very vital, overweight people, you know? So anyhow, we can keep talking about that at a different time. Yeah. That's another episode.
Totally. Well, how can berberine help with managing weight? I know we were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah. So it was a cool side effect because the body, again, what's happening? We're using sugar better, we're making energy better, breaking stuff down and using it more efficiently. So when our metabolism is more efficient, just like Eva said in the chat yesterday, and what most people experienced in the studies that I discussed is after about 12, 13 weeks, 10 to 12% of their body weight just kind of fell off with no dietary changes, no exercise changes, simply by taking the berberine, because of the way that it works to help with just more efficient use of sugar and nutrition in general.
Yeah, I'm on day 2 of the 90-day challenge, so I will keep you posted.
You got this. 88 to go. Oh my gosh, that's great.
Yeah, I'm doing it today. I mean, I'm going for it. I am very excited, curious to see how the results are without changing much. So I will let you guys know, and if it doesn't work, I'll let you know too. I will be completely transparent.
You know what? You know what I need to do is maybe just for like a little anecdotal fun, since you're doing it, we do some biomarkers now. Height, weight, circumference, measurements, energy, subjective stuff on a scale of 1 to 10. And then we'll measure in 90 days and see. Yeah. And I'll keep it secret. Okay. So you can't watch the playback.
Okay. Well, send me what I need to send you then. I definitely took my weight this morning, and I'm pretty sure it was yesterday, but I'll have to do all the measurements. So. Well,
people lost on average about 0.75, 3/4 of an inch off their waist as well. Their waist circumference is a big, a certain waist circumference too large compared to the rest of the body, or the height. Is a risk factor for certain diseases because that's more fat around, you know, the organs. So they did measure that. So maybe that's a thing for you. So that would be cool to see.
Were they all obese in this study, or were they like all ranges of weight?
They ranged the gambit. Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering that too, because I was like, well, you know, when you're overweight, sometimes, you know, 12% is different than when you're
easier to lose. Yes. Yeah. So I will say that's why there was a range, the 10 to 12%. Okay. So it was, you know, people that were 150 pounds lost 12 to 15 pounds, 15 pounds being the 10%. So maybe it's closer to 8 to 12%. Some people though, and again, that's the average. Some people had much higher, like you said, because they, you know, had the weight to lose. And the berberine just worked that much more effectively because they were so sluggish. Because some people, you know, if this is normal metabolism process, maybe some people are just here, but some people might be here, you know? So it's going to turn people's metabolism on and off, or upregulate it at different speeds, depending on the person, the genes, all that good stuff. So anyway, yeah, I'd be curious. The data brain wants to track is my point.
Send me the info I need to track. I'll send it back to you. And then anyone else that wants to join me on 90 days, I'm only on day 2. Like get a 90-day supply. This is 60 in here, but it's 2 a day, 2 to 3 a day. So stock up. And I guess you could do the bitter melon one too. So yeah, hope you guys are loving our show. If you have any questions for Dr. Jacquie, throw them in the chat. And remember to hit that follow button. Thank you, Nathan, and thank you, Mike, for following. As promised, we have some questions that we want to follow up on. So how long does it take for berberine to start working?
I mean, some people report feeling better within a week or two, but on paper, the data changed around 3 months, 12 to 13 weeks, the 90-day mark. And that's why, that's what most of the studies were reporting. But they did start seeing changes earlier in people, but the most drastic changes happened and more consistent changes happened around the 3-month mark.
Okay. All right. Berberine HCl or berberine with bitter melon and banana leaf? Which one should people go for? Which one should I be recommending?
So the berberine HCl is going to do all the cool stuff that we talked about: cardiovascular health, help with lowering cholesterol, bad cholesterol. It's going to help with acting like insulin, helping the body's metabolism be more efficient. So the benefit of the banana leaf bitter melon is it just kicks up the blood sugar regulation even more, because berberine alone is going to do that. But when we add 2 other plants that have similar actions, you're going to notice a significant improvement in the way that the body responds to insulin. So if you have diabetes versus, oh, maybe I'm a little overweight and have prediabetes, or I'm flirting with the line, or I want to prevent prediabetes, maybe just the berberine HCl. But if you know you have prediabetes, or you know you have diabetes, and those associated issues, or just want, general health associated with blood sugar control is the goal, or one of the main goals, then I would stick to the one with the banana leaf and bitter melon.
Okay. And should you take berberine on an empty stomach or with food?
So, I mean, most people don't take it with food. From the studies, at least, they give it 30 minutes before any sort of food, and just with water. But I did read other studies, smaller studies, that said that doing it or taking it with food, just like any other supplement, is going to help buffer the potential for nausea. Because I don't know about you, but I know when I take supplements, especially more than 2 or 3, which I'll take 5 or 6 at a time. Sometimes if I don't have like a little something with it, I can get a little nausea 20, 30 minutes later. So to buffer that, if you're similar to me, I'd recommend taking it with a snack. But empty stomach is cool if you can tolerate it.
Okay, well, let's move on to our next amazing formula. So we have our liver detox. This one's really cool. So this one looks like, show you guys what it looks like. It's not going to be bright yellow. So it's kind of like an earthy, like brownish color. Oops, there's my camera. The recommended dose on this one, 3 capsules daily. And this formula has milk thistle, it has artichoke leaf, dandelion leaf, and solar plast, which is the antioxidant rich spinach leaf extract. It also has a blend of digestive enzymes that help break down fats. It's $20.99 on Amazon, and you're getting an additional 20% off during this live, which is definitely a deal. So let's learn more. Dr. Jacquie, what are the top 3 most amazing facts about our liver that we should all know?
So the liver does so many cool things, but I think one of the first cool fact is that it does so many cool things. I think it's a jack of all trades, if you will. So it's a super complicated organ. It's involved in over 600 processes that go down in the body, which is pretty incredible. So it's also the starfish of the body, which I think is really cool. You can take a biopsy, lose a lobe or a portion of a lobe, and it can regenerate. And as far as we know, it's one of the only organs, except for the integumentary system, which is hair, skin, and nails, which we know regrow all the time. But in terms of like internal organs, it's the only organ that we know of that can grow that much back versus just healing over, which I think is amazing. It's the second biggest organ in the body compared to the skin, which is, I mean, it's like a football, right? So anybody who wants to feel where your liver border is, just find your rib cage on your right side and hook your fingers under, and that's the border of your liver. And it wraps all the way around your back to your spine and then all the way around to your sternum. So it takes up a big portion of the body. And yeah, I think those are the three. It does a lot of stuff. Starfish of the body, and second biggest organ in the body. Pretty cool.
Okay. No, that's super cool. What are some warning signs that you have a slow functioning or sluggish liver? Is weight gain one of them?
Yeah, so weight gain is going to be one of them. Weight gain in a lot of cases it's kind of nebulous though, because it can mean a couple different things could be going wrong. But a surefire way to know that the liver is dysfunctioning is you'll get something called jaundice, which means like a yellowing of the skin, or sometimes in the cornea of the eye. If you've ever seen people who have yellow where their eyes should be white, that's a sign that their liver enzymes are really high and their liver is probably damaged in some way. If you get what's called ascites, which is the really large, big belly swelling, that it's kind of like a hard distended belly, more than just indigestion or bloating, that could be a sign for sure of liver issues. Itchy skin, dark urine, just being exhausted all the time, real bad chronic fatigue, nausea and vomiting, especially vomiting bile, which is it's going to look like a yellowish green substance. Those are all signs that there could potentially be liver damage going on. And then objective ways to know, grab those labs again, is if you see two factors. They're pretty standard. They're tested every year in any physical or well check for adults, but it's AST and ALT. So if you look up those two, if those are elevated, high liver enzymes could mean liver damage is occurring. If they're normal, but you still have similar symptoms, definitely talk to your doctor, because you could have early stages or be borderline. So yeah, those are things to definitely look out for when it comes to struggling liver. And weight gain is totally one of them, because if you're not making bile, you're not efficiently using fats, what are you going to do? You're going to store them, right? So yeah, weight gain can definitely be part of the picture for sure.
Okay, which ones of our daily habits are taking the biggest toll on our liver?
I think a lot of people, by and large in North America, we consume a lot of alcohol. We use it to celebrate. We use it when we're sad. We use it when we're angry to calm down. We use it when we want to sleep if we can't sleep. It's used often, and it's probably one of the most damaging to the liver. Over time, you can kind of pickle the liver, create scar tissue like cirrhosis, fatty liver disease even. So definitely, if you can help it, try to do some detoxes or limit alcohol intake. Eating high processed sugars, that's definitely going to mess with the efficiency of the liver. Eating too much salt also, just basically excess of any kind the liver is not going to be happy. If you're on a lot of medications, if you're taking hormones, for example, everything has to go through the liver. So the harder we make it work, the more signs it's going to have a problem. So definitely check those lifestyle things if you can, do some reflection, avoid and limit them as much as possible. But all things in moderation. You don't have to go 100% free of those things. Enjoy cake and a cocktail if you want. It's just the excess part and the consistent excess that degrades the liver and then eventually won't bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, in America, drinking is so central to socializing. It's like you go to a party and it's almost automatic. Like if you're not drinking, why aren't you drinking? Why you're not drinking?
Yeah. I'm not a big drinker, and it happens to me all the time, and people think there's something wrong, or I don't know, I'm just like a Debbie Downer or something like that. I'm like, no, I can't, I don't need the social lubricant like some people do, which, hey, I'm not here to judge. But it's funny that if I have a solo cup or I have a cocktail glass with just like cranberry juice and a straw, then I don't get the weird eyes or the weird questions. Yeah, it's a mocktail, and I'm like, oh yeah, see, I'm drinking too. I'm having fun. Like,
Oh, well, my husband doesn't drink by choice. He's like, because of being an athlete. And so any party we go to, he brings kombucha, because I think he's so not over people asking, but easier just to have a drink and you're not drinking water party too. Because a lot of parties, there is no non-alcoholic options. It's like alcohol or water, which water, nothing wrong with water, but you're at a party. Yeah. So yeah, I get that.
I totally relate.
I love you. Have a cocktail, have a cake, everything in moderation. Yes.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Okay, so really good info about the liver. Thank you, Dr. Jackie, as always. You might be wondering what the little thing is that's attached to every single supplement. So this is called the Whisper. And these are so cool. There's actually a really cool story behind them too. So mine says, today is a good day for a good day. Every single whisper is different. They're like a positive message and affirmation. And when you go to take your supplements, you can't help but like read your whisper. Because I started taking berberine, right? Now I'm taking it every day. So I'm keeping it in my purse. And when I pulled it out, it was like I had to take a pause and read my whisper. Even though I've read it a million times because I do it every show, but I still had to take that pause and read it. And my berberine one says, any exercise is better than no exercise. So it was just such a good little reminder as I took my supplement of something positive. So I love these whispers. It's a handmade charm. And the backstory on it is that our founder, she went to Europe and she went to visit the Asclepian temple. And there's the ruins there. There's still a part of this Asclepian temple, of this tunnel. And in this tunnel, patients would slowly walk through it. And where you see that light, healers would whisper positive messages and mantras and affirmations to help them heal. So they were healing the mind and the body back then. Like, how incredible and how advanced they were. So that's where the inspiration for the whispers came from. So let's talk about what kind of metabolic disorders. Oh wait, I might have skipped something here. Oh no, here we go. So basically what we have found is that what you feel, anxiety, grief, anger, frustration, can actually have a physical effect in your body. So we talk about this every single week. And the question now is just, what metabolic disorders do you commonly see in people that are struggling with their emotions?
So in Chinese medicine and in naturopathic medicine, there is a huge focus on mind-body, or the connection between what we think, repressed emotions, past experiences that never got metabolized physically, where they end up affecting the body the most. And so there are, especially in traditional Chinese medicine, we tend to see a lot of themes around certain issues. So, for example, part of the Chinese medicine theory of thyroid disease is inability to express oneself. And so, you know, it's right where we're speaking, it's where truth happens. It has to do with a lot of worrying about what other people think, worrying about making the right move. So spleen chi, which we kind of talked about yesterday, getting in the way of how the stomach and the liver works, causing weight gain. And then that affects the thyroid. We're not fully expressing ourselves, and they're one and the same, essentially. And so another manifestation is when we have constipation, the inability to let go. We need to hold on to control. And so people get slow and low and immovable. They're like the earth, right? In Chinese medicine, they dry up, they get stagnant. And so it's difficult to excrete, to take in chi from food, the world, the air, utilize all the good stuff, wring it out, and get rid of the bad and make room for the good. So people who have a hard time with change, people, then, you know, sometimes we can see ulcerative colitis, or we can see bowel disease, or, you know, colon cancer. So there's a big connection there. Some people who have diarrhea or have hyperhidrosis, who sweat a lot, or who have headaches, all these fast moving, kind of hot constituted type of diseases or illnesses, we see with people who are anxious and overanalyze and can't sleep, and, you know, are trying to do too many things and are so worried about what other people are thinking or how they're going to be or their security or all these. So they can't slow down, and they can't, or, you know, frustration. You're easy to frustrate. You're impatient, maybe with yourself, maybe with other people, maybe both. A lot of times that's liver fire. And so again, those emotions can sometimes lead to those diseases, and those diseases can sometimes be a reflection of holding on to those emotions. And so hypothyroid, and then not only can the thyroid slow down and not work as well, but then your own immune system can start attacking your poor sluggish thyroid. That's known as Hashimoto's disease. Now that's, you know, in energetic mind body, there is a belief around self-rejection, which is autoimmune disease. If you hate yourself, if you degrade yourself, if you have issues accepting and loving yourself, you're against yourself. And so your own immune system can sometimes turn on you. Now, again, this is a mind-body study. This is esoteric, traditional Chinese medicine in a lot of ways. It's also subconscious psychology theory with when we, internalize feelings, how our body manifests them. And so science is still working on figuring out ways to measure this. And all we can really do is ask thousands of people with liver issues, hey, are you angry? To be able to try to make these connections, because we can't measure emotion. It's very subjective. So that's kind of the intangibility, or I call it the slippery slope studies, because it's like soap. It slips through your fingers, right? You can't quite hold on to it because you're trying to connect objective measures like disease states with subjective measures like emotional experiences. And so we're doing the best we can, trying to find connections so that we can help address one or the other or both simultaneously. But those are usually the connections that I see, by and large. And it's not always accurate, but it's funny when it is. People think I'm a mind reader, but it's just traditional Chinese medicine. So, if you're curious about that, or you feel like emotions have really dictated your health state, I highly recommend talking to an acupuncturist or somebody who has their master's or LCM in Chinese medicine. They'll definitely be able to help shed some light on it for sure.
That's so interesting. Yeah, it's like fascinating. Well, I hope everyone's enjoying. Yeah. Eva had said earlier that when she goes to a party and doesn't have a drink, people ask, are you pregnant? And it's funny because you get that all the time. When my friends aren't drinking, it's the first question. I'm like, are you pregnant? It's like the first thing you ask. So yeah, that's fun. Yeah, it's our society. It's so drink centric.
It really is. There has to be something like wrong with you or up with you, or something has to be like, there has to be a big reason. And it's like, no, I just don't like alcohol. It's not, Yeah. It's like, it's not everyone's thing. Yeah. Which is, I think it's totally fine. It's like, I'll bring food to a potluck and I'm like, why aren't you eating my vegan food? And it's like, who cares? They're just not into it. So it is what it is. But yeah, I agree. It's the pregnant thing. Or I've gotten a few times like decide like, are you in the program? Because it's they think 12 step or I'm, which is fine too. They're concerned, they're curious, but it's just so interesting the things people assume when you're not having a drink. Yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah. I changed though. I've heard there's kind of more of like a movement towards like non-drinking. So I do think as people know more about health, that movement's getting stronger. But then you also like go to any party or like any bar scene and you're like, oh no, there's no movement. Everyone's out drinking in the middle of the day.
I think it just depends. Yeah, it depends on your bubble. It really just depends on your bubble.
When I was in my 20s, it's like what we did, that was it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I've grown up.
It's almost like a rite of passage.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, if everyone else is enjoying this, go ahead and hit that follow button. We love when you do that. Plus, you can follow at Mineral World Herbs on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. We have tons of good information on there as well. And lastly, I just want to spend a few moments talking about some of the herbal superheroes with amazing properties for liver and metabolic health. And we've included them all in the liver detox formula. So firstly, dandelion. Dr. Jacquie, what is there to know about dandelions as herbal remedies?
Dandelion is a 2-for-1. It's a pretty cool plant because you can use the roots and the leaves, both. In most herbs that we utilize, it's like one special aspect of the plant. We can cook and eat all the aspects of the plant maybe, but there's only one area like the root or the bark or the berry or the flower that has kind of the special power, if you will. But dandelion's cool because both. The leaf is a diuretic, so it increases urination and fluid output. So if you're doing like a kidney cleanse or you're trying to help get toxins out of the body faster, which, with a liver detox, as the liver is breaking stuff down, it's dumping it into the blood and we want the blood to be filtered faster. So taking a natural diuretic like the dandelion leaf is awesome. But the root can also be used because it is an anti-inflammatory and it's called a cholagogue, which means it helps the liver make more bile, fresh bile. And bile is like a sticky substance that the liver makes, the gallbladder stores, and then it dumps it out into the intestines when we eat fat. It helps break down and emulsify fat. So if we want to be more efficient at breaking down fat, we have to make good bile. And dandelion root is really cool because it helps make more good bile. So, it's a 2-for-1 dandelion. I love it for so many reasons. And it also is potassium sparing. So those of you who might be on a beta blocker or heart meds, if you're also on a diuretic, most medication diuretics, you have a potassium deficiency because you're urinating so much. So they put you on a potassium supplement or pill as well. The cool thing about dandelion leaf is it spares potassium, unlike the medications. So remember yesterday I was talking about the whole basketball team versus the star player. The med, right, just the diuretic, is going to get rid of all the cool stuff. But the plant, the leaf, has the potassium, it has the diuretic action, it has the liver action. So it has the whole team present to really be a lot more efficient and productive in what it does. So yeah, dandelion's pretty cool all the way around. I could keep going, but I'll stop. We have more questions?
Okay, we got your exciting one coming up next. Your one of your faves. Let's talk milk thistle. So what is so special about milk thistle?
Milk thistle is so special. It's the first monograph I ever did in herbal medicine class. I love you.
It's like your child.
It really is. Because so imagine you're like a newbie med student and you're like kind of into herbs and stuff, but you feel really kind of ignorant and new to it. And then they're like, okay, this is the manual. This is how you do background on herbs. This is how, the resources used. This is what all the cool stuff means. You did so much foundational work in understanding herbal medicine, but you haven't studied the actual herbs yet, just the classes, the actions, how to make it, blah, blah, blah. And then you go to a garden and you walk around and you make eyes with a plant. And it's just like, hey, come here. And you get to the flowers are beautiful. The leaf is beautiful. It's like you just connect and then you want to learn all about it. At least that's how I feel about plants. I know I'm probably an outlier, but I just had to know everything about it. And I think it was no accident because I had liver stuff.
Plant talking and fell over.
Oh. You have to love the set, right? We're working in real time here, people. Real people with real sets.
But you were talking about making eyes with a plant, and I swear my tree was like, oh yeah, I want to be part of this topic.
I want to be a part of this situation. Felt the vibes. So anyhow, loved and connected to milk thistle. Took it and saw a huge difference for me personally. So it's a lock and key. It's, if Cupid had its arrow to match 2 star-crossed lovers, it would be the liver, and thistle. Milk thistle is the liver herb. And so it protects the hepatocyte or the functional cell of the liver. It repairs them. Talk about the starfish property. Milk thistle is part of that property and will help with that. Protects it from inflammation, oxidative stress. It helps break up fibrotic scar tissue, so prevents cirrhosis, helps it synthesize and make proteins more efficiently. I mean, it helps with the toxic detoxification phase 1 and phase 2. It helps with immune cells. I mean, what does milk thistle not do for the liver? Come on. So anyhow, I have a connection to milk thistle. I personally love it. And you cannot, please, anyone out there interested in supporting their liver, detoxing their liver, if you're not taking milk thistle, you're doing it wrong.
All right. Good last statement right there. Well, it's definitely in here, so that's good. Okay, let's talk about antioxidant-rich leaf extracts. What do they do to help liver health?
So antioxidants just basically combat oxidative stress, right? We know the free radical, the angry little single guy, and he's beating up all the happy cells. And then antioxidants, like antioxidant-rich leaf extracts, come in and they're like, hey, buddy. They give it a hug, give it its extra electrons, make it happy, and it stops beating up all the healthy cells, right? So the angry cell is the oxidative stress, and the antioxidant is, kind of hugs and helps out, calms down that free radical. So without that damage happening to healthy cells, we don't get disease states, right? So, that's the value of antioxidants. Anytime you can get an antioxidant in there, especially if you're going to detox and have a lot of toxins circling through, which are angry little cells who beat up healthy cells, you want to keep that damage to a minimum by increasing antioxidants. And so, yeah, when you have more than one, it creates a synergy or aggregate effect. So that's why having, the leaf extracts, the key is the S. It makes it more powerful, which is awesome.
Nice. All right. And finally, artichoke leaf. Why is that beneficial for the liver?
So artichoke leaf basically protects it from damage. So anytime toxic stuff is going through, hormone breakdown, medications, it's just going to help eliminate the damage done to the actual liver cells. And then just like I mentioned before with dandelion root, it helps with bile production. And the more bile we're making, the less likely we are to get gallstones, have gallbladder issues, and the more efficient we get at using fat. So we're not going to store it as much. And so it can help with waistline, fat storage, all that good stuff, to take the artichoke leaf along with everything else. So the idea of an herbal composition is to have the whole team present. So, and then each herb is its own team within a team. So you're getting even more cool stuff happening. It's really powerful stuff when they're combined.
Nice. All right. Well, so if you guys are wondering the breakdown of this, we have 150 milligrams of dandelion leaf, 150 milligrams of milk thistle, 225 milligrams of artichoke leaf, and then 300 milligrams of antioxidant-rich spinach leaf extract. And it's 20% off right now. So score that, grab a bottle. And our time is about up, but if you are just jumping on, I'd love to give you a little mini recap. Our theme today is from food to energy and everything connected to it. We've been talking about cardiovascular health, metabolic health and antioxidants, and we've been highlighting the benefits of middle world berberine HCl40, as well as that boost it gives to blood sugar support. It helps with cholesterol levels. And then we've been talking about middle world berberine with bitter melon, and that's a really good supplement for everything that's been mentioned above. Plus, if you're dealing with toxic overload, especially if you've had a lot of sweets or fried foods. And then middle world liver detox, which we just discussed, that's a powerhouse of herbs. All the antioxidants and enzymes supporting liver detoxification, restorification of liver cells, and helping with blood and bile flow through the liver. So Dr. Jacquie, as we get ready to wrap up, could you leave everyone with our top 3 most important things about metabolic health that you want to share with our audience?
Yes. If you can't control your genes, or if you were given maybe not as efficient genes in your family for metabolism and it's a concern for you, do your best to help give your genes a thriving environment, because I promise they won't let you down. And just by increasing your metabolism by a few percent can make you burn a couple 100 extra calories a day, which can be a snack or half of a meal. And so you're using that energy instead of storing it just by making sure the environment's healthy, right? Accept the genes, work on the environment, i.e. move your body, eat well, and then just moderation with all the fun stuff. And if you see me around at a party and I'm not drinking, I'm not pregnant, and I'm not in the program. So 4 things.
Are you?
Oh, dun, dun, dun. I love you.
All right. Well, we go live twice a week. You got to hang out with us, guys. If you haven't, hit that follow button, because you got to hang out. We're so fun. Sometimes we're really funny. You got to get our funny episodes. We get hilarious. Sometimes we're really serious. It just depends.
I know.
All right. Well, I know, right? This one is a little more serious because, you tried to find jokes for it, but yeah.
I did. I just
mushroom
couldn't find. Yeah.
There just is a lot with metabolic health.
The closest thing to a joke is my partner asked, hey, what's the topic on this Amazon Live? And I was like, oh man, no, he was like, hey, what are you doing? Because I was kind of like concentrating. And I'm like, man, I'm trying to look up jokes about barberries because it was berberine. And he's like, well, I like Gucci better.
Oh,
that's the only joke.
That was good. That's a good one.
But it was good. But how can you deliver it in Amazon Live? I was like, I'll try to work it in.
Yeah.
I'll do my best.
That's a tough one. That is a tough one. I know. We're gonna have to rely on our audience to bring the jokes to us.
Yeah,
so you guys
a great
start. All right. Well, we have hit. What was it? I think we just hit our time. Yes, we are right on the dot today. We are so good. We got through the whole script too, which is like huge. So go us. All right. Well, we just want to wish everyone a great evening. Come join us next week. We'll be back with more fun. And if you want to say anything, Dr. Jackie, you can close out.
Just want to say thank you, everyone, for sharing your time and energy with me. I hope you learned something, and hopefully I'll see you in the same time, same place next week. Thank you. Have a great night.
Hear the whispers from within, balance to restore, ailings to relieve. Feel the nature keeping us, nature healing us, flowers, leaves, and roots within. Hear the mind calming you, soothing you, love and kindness inside out. Let the herbs from middle world heal. Welcome wellness, welcome wellness. It's revealed herbs, middle world herb.